Nolan Haims is an expert at visual communications, presentation and design training, data visualization, and he just so happens to be one of a very select group of secret community. We're not allowed to talk about the Microsoft PowerPoint MVP community. Nolan, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Hi, Dave. It's good. It's good to see you too.
How many Microsoft PowerPoint MVPs are there?
There are about 35 worldwide. There are about 15 or so in the US.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a little community. And we don't get paid by Microsoft. We're not on their payroll. They do throw some t-shirts every once in a while, but we're sort of the link between the users and the development team. And we talk to the development team all the time. We have constant consultations
Hmm.
trying to improve the product and give them, bug reports and everything. And I've been an MVP for about 6 years or so,
Hmm.
and it's a great relationship to have, like, to be inside like the mind of the development team.
And did you have to apply to become the MVP, or did they seek you out?
You get nominated. It's a little opaque in how it works.
Man, this is
Your
like
nomination,
we're almost like the Masons here. You know what I mean?
a
It's
little
like we're
bit,
not allowed to
and
talk about. I'd
and they're
rather
only
not talk about it.
yeah, they're only there's a lot of NDA stuff we're not allowed to talk about. There's about 35 PowerPoint ones, but then they're like 4 or 5 thousand other MVPs for
Mm,
other parts of Microsoft, because
sure,
Microsoft has like all these weird softwares and things. And you go
sure.
to a conference like the yearly summit, which this year was online, had to be moved online. But you see name badges. I'm like, what is that?
Hmm.
Is that
Is it is
software?
it
Is that
is it like an eyes wide shut thing? Do you go with masks and hoods on and stuff like that?
no? But everybody brings
Okay,
their swag and
I'm
their
I'm totally sorry. I couldn't resist.
but
Um, I thought we would talk a little bit about where we are right now and how much of the business we transact, the stories we tell, um, the way we live our lives is on screens right now, is transacted via screens, and a lot of the work you do, the consulting work you do, the expertise you offer is ends up on screens, either in slides or in supporting visuals or takeaways or whatever. um, is this a mixed blessing for you? Is this sort of like be careful of what you ask for because it may come true? I mean, where's your head at with all this online on screen stuff?
I mean, I've always said, when, trying to describe what I do with presentation design, I always say, like, if you've ever seen anybody speaking with a screen behind them in any situation, we've done that. Be it a big keynote or a conference, boardroom or a sales deck or whatever, like any situation like that. Um, we also do a lot of, traditional graphic design as well, and that nimbleness has helped us. But, is it a mixed blessing? I always I always shied away and was kind of against too much online learning. Um, you probably know this in terms of both on demand. I mean, I've always done webinars, right?
Yeah.
I love webinars, but there's just so much you can cover in an hour-long
You just
webinar.
want to know there's another live human being on the other side.
Yeah, and that engagement is something we'll talk about. But yeah, so I did a lot of live training. That was a big part of my business. Fortunately, it wasn't my entire business, but I would travel around the country, teaching people, spending a half day, a full day with teams, teaching them how to present data better, how to create better presentations. That obviously is all gone, right? I still have those clients, and slowly, a couple of them were moving to online. I'm doing more webinars now. I
Hmm.
created a webinar, which I've been giving on online
Hmm.
presenting,
Hmm.
how to present remotely,
Hmm.
which a lot of people now are trying to figure out, like, oh, well, I did it once, but now it's the only thing I'm doing. So, sure. I mean, it has resulted in some new business for me, but
Hmm.
in the totality, you know, I don't know, maybe 75% of where I was
Hmm.
before, which is not bad. And
In based upon what you've seen,
yeah.
both from meetings and a lot of these virtual conferences that people
Yeah.
are running right now, what I play both sides of this, but what do you think is working, and what do you think is not working so well that people need to work on?
Still a little early to tell. I participated in a Microsoft online conference in Teams for 3 or 4 days. It was basically just like a Teams meeting, like a series of Teams meeting, a little clunky. There's Everyone's still figuring out Teams. Next week, I'm speaking at my first all online conference, the Creative Pro Week conference, and we're going to see how that goes.
Hmm.
It's actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but we're pre-recording many
Hmm.
of the sessions,
Hmm.
but then hopping on live for the Q&A.
Hmm.
I don't know, think they're advertising that, but so we're going to figure out how that happens. And then in August, I'm speaking at another conference. It's all going to be live.
Hmm.
So what's working and what's not? I think shorter chunks is working. I'm a little skeptical of how this sort of week-long design conference next week is actually going to play out with engagement,
Weird.
because you just have to leave. Like the Microsoft conference, there was we would have like 4 or 5 sessions in a row, all 1 hour sessions.
Mhm.
So when do you go to the bathroom? When do you like take a break? That wasn't figured into it.
Yeah.
But I think people have rapidly adjusted,
Hmm.
and I think I mean something that I talk about in my webinar a lot is just stepping up your game a little bit.
Hmm.
Be it getting some LED lights, getting
Hmm.
a better microphone,
Hmm.
getting that webcam. I know they're
Hmm.
hard to find now, but I think people are stepping up to it, and I think it's becoming. I think people are much more facile with it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the technology is stepping up as well.
Hmm.
Zoom's a wonderful platform. It's
Hmm.
like it just works.
Hmm.
Um, Teams, as I said, they're having
Hmm.
some problems because I think it's just too technically
Hmm.
involved.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
so
cool.
yeah, I've
Good.
been pretty impressed with how people are
Good.
stepping
Yeah,
up.
we're evolving. At at the speed of thought, at the speed of need.
Yeah.
And my last question is a question I ask everybody. Nolan, what lessons have we learned, or are we learning right now that we must not forget as we move through and get beyond this?
Um, I guess if you want to talk a larger picture, let's not forget they're real people on the other end. So, I mean, that goes back to the online learning. That's one of the reasons I never liked it so much. It just seems so cold and there's no feedback and impersonal. But now we're seeing, even now, if I'm doing a webinar and I'm not seeing cameras, I'm not seeing faces, there
Hmm.
might be a chat, but we're actually more attuned now that there really are people there
Hmm.
because we're constantly on Zoom. I love the fact, interestingly enough, that I'm having more video conferences now than I were. Ha- Before this, I would have had phone calls,
Phone calls.
and now everybody's just on phone. A client, set up an old fashioned phone call the other day. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's refreshing.
Hey,
but
hey.
um, but I like that. So in a way, we're getting back to that. We're actually re-engaging more than just on email and phones. From a business perspective, you've got to be diversified.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think, one friend of mine only did live training.
Right.
What's he doing now? Like
Yeah.
I did live training, I did online, I
Yep.
do design work, I do print, I do presentation.
Sure.
You don't want to be a, jack of every trade
Sure.
and master of nothing,
Sure.
but I think being a little diversified is going to be important.
Exactly. Well, hey, I appreciate the time you've given us here today, and maybe at some point in the future we could loop back around and see, what incredible success stories you have to tell us.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. It was great to talk.
Take care.